Welcome to Mind Research Rewired. We unveil scientific truths to transform confusion into clear thinking. Unlock a sharper, more effective you based on proven research. Subscribe now and elevate your life.
If you look at the research from Harvard Business School's Shikhar Ghosh, there is a statistic that absolutely, it just stops you in your tracks.
Yeah. It's a brutal one.
Right. 75% of all startups fail. Like 3 out of 4 founders who are pouring their time, their capital, their sanity into a venture are mathematically on track to hit a brick wall.
Which is wild when you think about the sheer amount of talent out there.
Exactly. So today, we are doing a massive deep dive into a highly specific framework designed to make sure you land in that winning 25%.
It's a sobering reality check to start with, but what is truly fascinating about that 75% failure rate is the actual cause.
Right, because it's usually not what people think it is.
No, not at all. It rarely comes down to a lack of vision or like a poor work ethic.
Yeah.
Or even a lack of initial funding.
Yeah, we always hear about startups running out of money, but that's a symptom, not the disease.
Exactly. The root cause is far more systemic. The fundamental playbook that most founders use to build their companies is just structurally broken.
And that broken playbook is exactly what we are dismantling today. We are pulling our insights from a really seminal piece of research by Steve Blank.
Published in the Harvard Business Review, right?
Yep. It's titled, Why the Lean Startup Changes Everything. And the mission here today is to move past the ivory tower theories and dig into the gritty physical reality of building a venture.
Because building a startup is incredibly gritty.
Absolutely. We were talking about the exact psychological shifts required to stop operating like some bloated bureaucratic corporation and start building something highly adaptable.
For decades, the business world treated startups as if they were just, smaller versions of large established corporations.
Like mini IBMs or something.
Right. We force them to use the same management tools, the same accounting metrics, and most dangerously, the same linear planning processes.
Which is just a recipe for disaster.
It really is. Blank's research completely shatters that approach.
So let's start with the most entrenched part of that old playbook, the 5-year business plan.
The traditional trap. The sequence usually goes like this, right? A founder gets an idea.
A spark of genius.
Supposedly. So they isolate themselves at a desk for weeks, sometimes months, to write this comprehensive 50-page business plan.
Just typing away in a vacuum.
Exactly. It's this highly static document that outlines the theoretical size of the opportunity. And it usually includes, a meticulously crafted 5-year forecast for income, profits, and cash flow.
It looks beautiful on paper.
Oh, the spreadsheets are always gorgeous. Then the founder uses that document to pitch investors, assemble a team, spend a year building the product in complete secrecy, and finally launch.
But hold on, let me play devil's advocate here.
Please do.
If I'm a founder, right, and I'm trying to secure massive early-stage grant funding for a really complex venture, let's say I'm building a new biotech startup.
Okay, high stakes.
Yeah, very high stakes. Doesn't a board of directors want to see that 5-year plan? Like, doesn't the lack of a comprehensive roadmap just signal to investors that I'm flying blind and operating in total chaos?
Look, it is entirely natural to feel that way because psychologically we all crave the illusion of certainty.
The illusion.
Yes, the illusion. Investors and founders both want to feel like the future is predictable. But Steve Blank quotes Mike Tyson in this piece to perfectly capture the reality of this approach.
Oh, I love this quote.
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Which, in the business world, usually happens the very second the product hits the market.
Precisely. The text points out that essentially no one besides venture capitalists and the late Soviet Union demands 5-year plans to forecast complete unknowns.
That is such a wild comparison, but it's so true.
Right. The fatal flaw of the traditional business plan is the assumption that you can figure out the unknowns of a new market in advance.
Just by thinking really hard about it.
Yeah, sitting in isolation before you have ever interacted with a single real customer, it is essentially a research exercise written at a desk.
It makes me think of an analogy. Writing a traditional 5-year plan for an unproven startup is basically like trying to paint a highly detailed, intricate mural in a pitch-black room.
I like that.
Right. You spend a year carefully mixing your paints, applying them to the wall, all based entirely on where you think the borders are.
Just completely guessing in the dark.
Exactly. Then launch day comes, you finally turn the lights on, and you realize you painted over a window, the proportions are completely distorted, and like half the paint is on the ceiling.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. You assumed the environment was static and known. And this brings us to the core revelation of the entire lean methodology.
This is the big one.
If you take away nothing else from this deep dive today, this is the paradigm shift you need to internalize. Here it is: existing companies execute a business model. Startups look for one.
Let's pause on that, because that distinction changes the entire job description of a founder. Existing companies execute. Startups search.
That's it. A startup is not a company yet. By definition, a startup is a temporary organization designed specifically to search for a repeatable, scalable business model.
A temporary organization. That just reframes everything.
Completely. When you understand that your primary function on day one is not execution, but rather search and discovery, every single tool you use has to change.
So if we aren't painting murals in the dark, what is the actual alternative? Like, how do you structure a search phase without it just devolving into pure chaos?
You replace that 50-page fiction with the business model canvas. It's a framework developed by Alexander Osterwalder and Yves Pigneur.
The canvas? Okay, walk us through it.
Because you are in search mode, you have to humbly accept that on day one, your grand vision is really just a series of untested guesses.
Which hurts the ego a little bit.
It hurts a lot, but the canvas allows you to map out those guesses on a single piece of paper.
So rather than endless paragraphs of, fictional projections, you were forced to distill the entire venture down into 9 key building blocks.
Right. You define your key partners, your key activities, and your key resources.
Keeping it lean.
Very. You explicitly outline your value propositions, like what exact problem are you actually solving? Then you map out customer relationships, your distribution channels, specific customer segments, your cost structure, and finally, revenue streams.
But the real power of the canvas isn't just that it's shorter than a business plan. It's how those 9 blocks interact with each other.
Right, absolutely. It creates a visual web of dependencies.
Yeah, like if I am looking at my canvas and I decide to change my target customer segment from high school teenagers to Fortune 500 enterprise clients, I can instantly see how that single change completely shatters my current distribution channel.
And it obliterates your cost structure, too.
Exactly. It visualizes cause and effect. But most importantly, it forces you to treat whatever you write in those 9 boxes as a hypothesis.
Right, they're just guesses. Which leads to the immediate next problem. Sitting in your office staring at a canvas full of hypotheses doesn't magically make them true.
No, it just makes you a person staring at a piece of paper. So how do you actually validate the mechanics of this one-page sketch?
You utilize the second principle of the lean startup customer development.
It's customer development.
Yes. You literally have to get out of the building. You take your hypotheses and you go ask potential users, purchasers, and partners for brutal, honest feedback.
You interrogate every single block on that canvas.
You have to. You ask them about your proposed features, your pricing model, your delivery channels.
Well, wait, let me push back here again.
Go for it.
Let's say I am balancing highly creative apparel design with complex technical functionality. Say I'm building smart clothing for high-performance athletes.
Cool concept.
Thanks. But if I just go out and do whatever 100 random athletes tell me to do, don't I just end up with a Frankenstein product?
That is a very, very common hesitation.
Right. Doesn't listening to everyone just dilute the core vision into something that pleases absolutely nobody?
It does sound like a risk, but it stems from a misunderstanding of what customer development actually is. You are not asking the customer to design the product for you.
Okay.
You are not crowdsourcing your creative vision. The mechanism of customer development is designed to validate the problem, not the solution.
Ah, validate the problem.
Yes. You are checking to see if the pain point you built your entire canvas around actually exists in the real world.
Okay, that clarifies things immensely. You aren't asking them how to solve it. You are verifying that they actually care about the problem in the first place.
Exactly. Let's look at how this plays out in reality with a story from the HBR text. The story of Blue River Technology.
Oh, this is a great example.
It really is. So the founders, Jorge Herod and Lee Redden, they had a very clear technical vision. They wanted to build robotic lawnmowers for commercial spaces, specifically targeting golf courses.
Which on paper sounds like a fantastic hypothesis. I mean, golf courses have massive expanses of grass. They spend an absolute fortune on manual maintenance. And automation could drastically cut those costs.
It makes total sense on a whiteboard.
In a traditional playbook, you lock yourself in a lab for a year and build the perfect golf course robot.
But they didn't do that. They used the lean approach. They got out of the building and talked to over 100 customers in 10 weeks.
100 customers in 10 weeks. That's insane hustle.
It is. And through those conversations, they uncovered a devastating reality. Golf courses simply did not care enough about robotic mowers to buy them.
Wow. So the fundamental hypothesis driving their entire business model was just completely flawed from day one.
Yep. But because they discovered this before they spent a year building a huge manufacturing supply chain, the company survived.
That's the key right there.
And this is where the search phase really pays off. During those 100 conversations, they stumbled onto a customer segment that actually did care. Farmers.
Okay, let's unpack that transition. Because how do you get from a pristine golf course to a farm?
By listening to the severity of the problem, they discovered that farmers had a massive, desperate demand for an automated way to kill weeds without using expensive, harmful chemicals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Blue River didn't ask the farmers to design a robot for them. They simply found a desperate, validated problem to which they could apply their existing technical expertise.
They matched their vision to a real need.
Exactly. They pivoted their target market, built and tested a prototype specifically for farmers in just 10 weeks, and 9 months later.
Let me guess. They got funded.
Big time. That validated problem allowed them to secure over $3 million in venture funding.
$3 million.
Yeah.
That is incredible. They survived the punch to the mouth because they were agile enough to pivot. Which brings us to how you actually build the product once you find that validated problem.
Right, so the text highlights a major shift here, moving from traditional waterfall development to agile development.
Waterfall development being the old linear, step-by-step engineering process.
Exactly. You design it, you engineer it, you test it in a bubble, and you launch it a year later.
The causal flaw behind the waterfall method is that it assumes the market is completely frozen in time from the day you start engineering to the day you launch.
It assumes nobody else innovates.
Right. The economy doesn't shift. Consumer preferences stay totally identical for 12 straight months. It's crazy.
It is. Agile development, which, originated in the software industry, it eliminates that vulnerability by building the product iteratively and incrementally.
Short cycles.
Yes. You are constantly building, testing, and refining.
So you build a minimum viable product, or an MVP. You construct the absolute bare minimum required to get real-world feedback, and you put it in people's hands immediately.
And what's incredible is that this agility isn't restricted to software anymore.
No, the hardware example in the research is remarkable.
You're referring to Ruminate.
Yes, Alice Brooks and Bettina Chen. They founded a startup building these wired dollhouse kits to inspire young girls to get into STEM fields.
Which is an awesome mission.
Right. But historically, building a physical toy meant securing massive capital, setting up an entire factory tooling process, and just hoping the inventory actually sold during the holiday rush.
And if it didn't?
You were bankrupt. End of story. But Ruminate operated lean.
They bypassed the traditional hardware trap entirely. They designed the product, tested it locally, iterated based on immediate feedback, and then sent their specifications directly to a contract manufacturer in China.
And they had their first run of physical products back in their hands in just 3 weeks.
That is just unheard of in traditional manufacturing.
3 weeks to go from design to a tangible, testable piece of custom hardware.
It's an astonishing timeline. But, releasing early iterations brings up one of the most contentious debates in the startup world.
The fear of abandoning stealth mode.
Yes, the paranoia.
I hear this constantly from founders. If you release a rough, half-finished MVP in 3 weeks just to get feedback, what stops a giant incumbent from seeing it, stealing the core idea, and crushing you with their superior resources?
It's a valid anxiety.
Right. Isn't staying in stealth mode until you have a polished, defensible product the only way to protect yourself?
It is a deeply ingrained fear, for sure, but the research dismantles it completely. The text argues that stealth mode is largely obsolete.
Obsolete.
Yes. The lean methodology posits that continuous customer feedback is infinitely more valuable than secrecy.
Because secrecy doesn't protect you from building a product nobody actually wants.
Precisely. The psychological reality of the market is that massive competitors are generally too bogged down trying to execute their own complex business models to notice or care about your unproven, half-baked hypothesis.
They have their own problems.
Exactly. The far greater existential threat to your startup isn't intellectual property theft. It is you spending 2 years operating in secret, draining your capital, only to launch a product that is met with total apathy.
Total apathy is the real enemy. Feedback matters more than secrecy. And this shift in strategy is entirely fueled by how the ecosystem has evolved today, right? The barriers to entry have virtually disappeared.
The democratization of entrepreneurship has fundamentally altered the risk profile of starting a company.
I mean, if you look at the infrastructure available right now, it's unprecedented.
Yeah.
You have open source software repositories like GitHub.
Yeah, the building blocks are free.
You have cloud computing through Amazon Web Services, where server costs have plummeted from like millions of dollars in upfront capital to a few $100s a month.
It's incredible.
You have immediate access to offshore manufacturing from a laptop. And on the capital side, you have decentralized financing, super angel funds, and accelerators like Y Combinator.
The whole system has changed.
The entire modern infrastructure is actively designed to help you build an MVP, test it, and fail fast without ruining your life.
Right. Failing fast has transitioned from a catastrophic, career-ending event into an affordable, necessary step in the search for a business model.
But let's stress test this methodology a little further, because I can imagine founders listening right now who are building highly complex, large-scale industrial operations, and they're thinking
That this is just for apps.
Exactly. They're saying, this Sketchpad and MVP approach is great if you are building a SaaS product or a dollhouse, but it does not apply to enterprise-level scale.
And the research proves that assumption completely wrong. Lean methodology is arguably even more critical for large-scale enterprise operations.
Why is that?
Simply because the financial penalty for guessing wrong at that massive scale is astronomical.
Which is perfectly illustrated by the General Electric case study in the text regarding their Durathon battery technology.
This is such a great story.
This wasn't a small team in a garage. This was GE's energy storage division.
Massive stakes. GE had developed this new, highly advanced battery. If they followed the traditional corporate playbook, they would have authorized a massive capital expenditure.
Built a giant factory.
Built a giant factory and launched the battery as a standard product extension based entirely on, internal sales projections.
Just executing a plan in the dark.
Right. But the general manager, Prescott Logan, he recognized that while they had incredible technology, they did not actually have a validated business model for it yet.
They needed to search.
So they applied lean techniques to a massive industrial rollout. The key mechanism of their search was how they approached their prospects. Logan and his team flew all over the world to meet with potential clients, but they deliberately left their PowerPoint presentations behind.
See, that detail is brilliant. By literally entering the room empty-handed, they physically prevented themselves from pitching the solution.
It's an incredible move for a huge corporate executive. By not pitching, they were forced to listen. They spent their time diagnosing the frustrations customers were having with their current energy storage solutions.
And the insights they gathered completely derailed their original business plan, didn't they?
It totally derailed it. Their initial assumption, the core hypothesis on their canvas, was that data centers would be their primary market. Right. But the customer development process proved that wrong. Traditional batteries in data centers are generally just used for brief interruptions, like until the backup generators kick in.
Just a temporary bridge.
Exactly. And the data centers were climate controlled, so they didn't urgently need the specific rugged resilience of the Durathon technology. If GE had just built the factory based on that data center hypothesis, it would have been a financial disaster.
$100 million mistake. But because they listened, they found the real pain point. They discovered a desperate need among utility companies and telecom providers in developing nations.
Right. Totally different demographic.
These were operators dealing with highly unreliable rolling electric grids in extreme, unair-conditioned environments.
That was the validated problem. GE confidently pivoted their entire strategy away from data centers and focused solely on those telecom and utility providers.
And only after they validated that demand did they actually invest $100 million into a new manufacturing facility in New York.
And when the factory opened, they already had a massive backlog, of validated orders waiting to be fulfilled.
Because they didn't guess. They tested the hypotheses, they found the friction, and they pivoted.
The system works at any scale.
It really does. So how do we apply this logic right now? Let's synthesize everything we've unpacked today into highly tactical steps that you can execute the moment you finish listening.
I love this. Let's do it. The first actionable shift is moving from a static plan to a dynamic canvas.
Exactly. Stop endlessly revising your 60-page business plan today. It acts as a psychological security blanket, but it is insulating you from the real market.
It's just a comfort thing.
Yes. Today, sketch out your business on a 9-block canvas. Take every single thing you firmly believe about your pricing, your customer, and your value proposition, and actively relabel it in your mind as a mere hypothesis.
Admitting that your core beliefs are just guesses, it removes a significant amount of ego from the equation, which makes it much, much easier to pivot when the data tells you that you are wrong.
Which leads right into the second action execute, the GE method. Schedule 5 conversations with potential customers or partners this week and leave the pitch deck behind.
Do not bring a single slide.
Do not try to sell them your solution. Just ask them about the friction in their daily operations, shut up, and listen. Test the hypotheses on your canvas against the physical reality of their day-to-day problems.
You are not looking for them to validate your brilliance, You are looking to see if the pain point is severe enough that they are actively trying to solve it themselves.
Such a crucial distinction. And the third step is defining your MVP. Look at your current product roadmap. Be ruthless.
Cut it down.
Strip away all the secondary nice-to-have features that you're using as an excuse to stay in stealth mode. Define the absolute bare minimum version of your product that you need to extract real-world feedback and figure out how to put it in someone's hands this month.
There is a common adage in agile development. If you are not at least a little bit embarrassed by the first version of your product, you launched too late.
Embrace the embarrassment. The goal is learning, not perfection.
Exactly.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, transitioning from the fallacy of predictable execution to the reality of dynamic search.
Right.
But we want to leave you with a final thought to really analyze as you go back to building your venture.
Right. Because the lean methodology is highly logical, but it ignores a very human element.
The psychological toll.
Yes. If this entire system relies on failing fast, right, continuously invalidating your own ideas, and constantly pivoting to find the right business model, how do you manage the psychological toll that takes on a team?
It's exhausting.
Experiencing continuous systemic failure during the search phase is incredibly exhausting. It requires immense grit to keep morale high when the canvas keeps telling you that all your guesses are wrong. Managing that emotional burn rate is just as critical as managing your financial burn rate.
It is the hidden friction of the lean startup. The search phase takes a toll, and that is exactly why this conversation doesn't end here. We want to hear from you as you navigate this process.
Do you want you in the comments?
Yes. Take a moment to reflect on your own venture right now and let us know your answers to 2 vital questions. Number 1, what is the biggest untested assumption you are currently treating as an absolute fact in your startup right now?
Good question.
And number 2, if you were forced by the market to launch your MVP next week instead of next year, what is the one feature you would actually keep?
Forcing yourself to identify that single, non-negotiable feature often reveals the true, underlying value of your entire business model.
We highly encourage you to drop your answers and insights in the comments. Let's keep the debate going and learn from the friction you are all experiencing in the market.
Can't wait to read them.
And hey, if this deep dive rewired your thinking today, you have to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. It tells the algorithm you are serious about leveling up your mindset, and it supports us in bringing you the absolute best premium insights every single week. Until next time, take these frameworks, get out of the building, and go build something that matters.